We say the British bike industry, but we might just as well say the Birmingham bike industry. Legendary names like Norton, Triumph and BSA were all no more than an omnibus ride away from this rather more modest workshop smack bang in the centre of Brum. And I'm here to meet a bloke who's done just about everything you can do in biking.
I rode them all through the First World War. I rode them all through the Second World War. I've been on everything. I've been at Brooklands, I used to road race, I used to scramble, I used to cross-track race, I used to freak hill climb, I used to speed hill climb, and I used to what they call sprints.
And what's more, until very recently, he was still at it, trials riding with the odd mad stunt thrown in for good measure. The seeds were sown nearly 90 years ago.
When I was 8 years old, my brothers decided that I should ride a motorbike. Anyway, my first ride was in Sutton Park. They just gave me a push-off, and I thought, what a marvellous thing. I don't have to pedal. I used to love it.
But even that wasn't enough for Len. He decided to build his own bike, utilising the ubiquitous Villiers engine. One of the lads in the shop liked it so much he begged to buy it. So Len built another, and the same thing happened again. The people at Villiers saw a photograph of the bike, and Len got a call from the big boss.
So he phoned me up straight away. He said, "Young Onslow, you've hit the jackpot." I said, "What do you mean, Mr. Farrer?" He says, "You've made the first real motorbike our engine's been fitted in."
Villiers took pictures of that bike and, without telling Len, got them published in a leading biking weekly. Overnight, Len had become a manufacturer of a machine that he modestly called the Onslow Special. But Mr. Farrer had grander ideas.
The Villiers boss said, "It's superior. You must call it Superior Onslow Special." I said, "I can't use that word." So my brother said, "Well, why not Super Onslow Special then?" So I said, "Oh, that's all right."
Len's business grew into a small empire, and his extended family were put to work, because when you're an Onslow, you're never too young to begin biking. But as well as being Britain's oldest biker, I reckon Len's also the greatest grandad.
When he was 3 years old, Len's grandson Dean announced that he wanted a motorbike. So Len built him one. But kids grow quick at that age, so when he was 4, he built him another one, a bit bigger. And another, and another, and another. When he was 10, Dean was the British schoolboy motocross champion. When I was 10, I'd just removed the stabilisers from my rally chopper.
Len's always loved off-roading, and he realised a long time ago that what you need for the slippery stuff is a lightweight machine with good ground clearance and bags of go. So he built one, with a revolutionary all-welded frame, a high-level exhaust system and a water-cooled two-stroke engine, perhaps not always required.
It's an amazing thing. I look around sometimes and I think, I was the first one to do that. I was the first one to do so many things that were copied, but I don't mind because it was all to the advantage of motorcycling. I was asked so many times why I preferred bikes to cars. I said, well, my car is completely automatic. You press a button, the windows open, you press another button and the mirrors will change direction. I said, I may as well have a steering wheel in my armchair, in my lounge. On a motorbike, you're changing gear, you're changing direction, you're leaning this way and leaning that way. You're doing something all the time.
Do you think it's motorbikes that have kept you so young and active?
Well, it is really, in a way, I suppose. I couldn't booze because, you see, you're in charge of something that is going along at probably high speed. And I used to smoke, but then about 50, 60 years ago, I realised that I hadn't got a chimney on my head.
Does it still give you a thrill after all these years?
It does, very much so. I enjoy every minute of my riding, and I'd ride all day, every day if I could.
One of the most desirable motorbikes you can buy these days, the Aprilia RS, is a sexy little lightweight two-stroke scorcher. Not a bad description of the old SOS in its day. And you know, meeting Len has convinced me more than ever. Whatever the size or shape or age, bikes are bikes, and bikers are bikers.
Korean car builders, Ssanyong, sell one of the slowest 4x4s on the British market. It's the lugubrious 2.9-litre, non-turbocharged diesel Musso. But now they've gone from one extreme to the other. A huge injection of power has turned their lumbering beast into a sort of off-road GTI. For £25,500 you can order the new Musso GX220, which comes with a 24-valve 3.2-litre Mercedes-designed petrol engine. It gives you the sort of performance you'd normally expect from a top-range Range Rover or a Jeep Grand Cherokee. A thoroughly healthy 118 miles an hour and 9.5 seconds to 60. And thanks to a chassis set up for on-road, not off-road abilities, you can take advantage of that extra urge. Rack and pinion steering, firm suspension and low ground clearance mean you can actually enjoy the twisty bits when most 4x4s would be all at sea. Inside there's bags of room for the luggage, but in the driver's seat it's rather pokey. The dials and the knobs seem to have been lifted out of an early 80s Cavalier, and rather more seriously, there are no airbags and none on the options list. And on the subject of face-saving, aesthetically sensitive souls will lose sleep over the styling. It's certainly different, but it's also liable to send you cowering behind the steering wheel in embarrassment every time a Range Rover or a Shogun looms in the other direction. Point-to-points are strictly out of bounds. But then if you want maximum personal credibility from your 4x4, drive a Jeep. For maximum on-road entertainment, though, you'd be better off with one of these.
Every weekend, you can guarantee that somewhere in Britain, owners of classic cars will gather together, set up the plastic chain-link fences and show off the things that they love the most. And like fishermen talking about the one that got away, every owner has a tale to tell about the wrecks they brought back to life.
The car was bought a little while ago as a total basket case.
It was a very tatty car when I bought it.
Literally in boxes.
And then I got the car back and stripped all the paint off it by hand and resprayed it.
And it was a pretty awful mess.
And I know virtually every nut and bolt on it, and to me it's an irreplaceable car now.
From start to finish, 3,000 hours.
I think it's fair to say that nobody loves classic cars as much as the British enthusiasts. For them, these cars aren't just metal, they are our motoring heritage, and as such should be treated like Chelsea pensioners, smartly turned out, well cared for and worth doffing your cap to. But some people don't see it like that. They think that when these cars reach the end of the road, they should go out with all guns blazing. If you're a regular at Goodwood and drive something decked out in chrome and walnut, then you might like to cover your eyes up for this bit. Officially, it's called a contact sport contested by pre-68 cars, and in plain English, that's classic banger racing. This growing form of motorsport involves old cars fighting to the finish, like geriatric gladiators.
Well, actually, I was the one that first organised the meeting to start with back 4 years ago. The reason being that the cars were so slow compared with the Granadas that were racing. People were spending a lot of time bringing the old cars to the track and getting obliterated virtually straight away.
Stroll through the pits at tonight's race in Birmingham and you'll find this Ford Zodiac limousine, a handful of Austin Farinas, some Mark II Jags, and Banger Basher's favourite, the Rover P5, all getting ready for one last rumble. There's no arguing this is mega sport. You're racing pre-68 rear-wheel drive cars like a pre-68 getaway driver. But we're not... But, as you can imagine, not everybody is happy to see cars like this dueling to the death. Classic car experts argue that since there are only a few thousand Mark II Jags and Rover P5s left, these cars should now be treated as endangered species, and that this kind of panel beating doesn't help one bit. And sadly, even some really rare stuff is ending up on the track.
There was a Vanden Plough which belonged to Winston Churchill, which I think was a pitiful...
You are joking.
No, it certainly did. We were absolutely shocked that somebody should bang race that. It's just wanton destruction. We've had recently a 51 Chevy. I mean, a couple of cars here tonight are very rare. The Ford Zodiac limousines. I mean, there must be 20 of those remaining.
19.
19, right. We're not against the sport generally. It is enjoyable, but I think there are cars that really ought not to be scrapped. I mean, you would not, for example, you wouldn't knock down a thatched cottage for fun, would you, if you bought it? And this is basically what this is.
Do you feel like you created a Frankenstein's monster there? Or?
Well, I think people now are going out to buy the cars for the meetings, whereas before people had the cars and were of course going to race them at this particular meeting. So in some respects there may have been cars, and I have been to meetings where you look at cars that have raced and perhaps they shouldn't have done.
The strange thing is, most people who get involved in this sport do have a fondness for classics. So there must be some good reason for bangering an old car instead of a not-so-old one.
The classics, most of them are much easier to work with, more fun to work with, more fun to drive. Take a lot more punishment to put on the track, take a lot more stick than most of the modern cars that can fold up.
It's just getting them to go, really. We've seen a lot of them like miss and pop and go. There's a lot of work you've got to do to them to get them to go. And if you have a good day that you feel you've done well, like.
What do you do during the week? What's your day job?
Restore classic cars.
So when you're in the car going around the track, you don't think, oh, I could knock this one back into shape or anything?
No.
No emotion about it?
No, I'm doing my level best to knock it out of shape.
By the end of the night, the classic car world was down by another 20-odd motors. The racers have a fair point, arguing that these cars are so knackered to start with, it would cost just too much to restore them. So why not send them out in a blaze of glory? But still, there is something sad about seeing the car your dad drove being pushed into the ring like some old prize fighter who should have thrown in the towel years ago. These classic car people, they may have a point, but look on the good side. Just think, in 20 years, they'll be down there smashing up Volvo 440s, Nissan Almeras, Nissan Sunnies, Daewoo, Hyundai Sonatas, Peugeot 309s, all the beige ones.